The envelope sat on the kitchen table like a bomb waiting to explode. It was thin, plain, and white, but my name was written in Jason's sharp, jagged handwriting. My hands shook as I picked it up. My heart raced so fast I thought it might burst. I was still weak from chemo, my head wrapped in a scarf to hide the baldness, my body aching from the drugs pumped into me to fight the cancer. I didn't need to open the envelope to know what it was. Deep down, I already knew. Divorce papers. My husband, the man who promised to love me forever, was leaving me. And he didn't even have the courage to say it to my face. He mailed it. Mailed it, like I was some stranger he could erase with a stamp. I sank into the chair, the world spinning. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. I stared at the envelope, my fingers tracing the edges as if touching it. Could make it disappear? How did we get here? 5 years ago, we were dancing at our wedding, laughing, dreaming of kids and a big house with a garden. Now I was fighting for my life, and he was running away. What did I do wrong? Was it the cancer? Was it me? I wanted to scream, to call. Him, to beg him to come back and hold me like he used to. But I didn't. I just sat there, the envelope in my hands, my world crumbling. And then the doorbell rang. My heart jumped. Was it him? Had he changed his mind? I stumbled to the door, my legs shaky, hope flickering in my chest like a candle about to go out. I opened it, expecting Jason's face, his green eyes, his mess brown hair. But it wasn't him. It was a stranger, a man with kind eyes and a soft smile, holding a package I didn't order. "Hi, I'm Jackson," he said. "Think this got delivered to my apartment by mistake?" I stared at him, confused, my voice gone. And then I saw the return address on the package. It was from the hospital. Another reminder of the cancer eating away at me. I took the package, mumbled a thank you, and closed the door. But something about his face stayed with me. Those kind eyes, that gentle voice. I didn't know it then. That stranger at my door would change everything. Who was he? And why did I feel like I'd seen him before? Before we proceed, could you quickly let me know in the comment which city or country are you watching from? And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories. My name is Emily. I am 35 years old and I used to think I had it all. 5 years ago, I was 30, happy and in love. Jason and I met in college. He was the funny guy in my art class, always doodling silly cartoons in the margins of his notebook. He made me laugh until my sides hurt. We'd stay up all night talking about our dreams, him opening a coffee shop, me painting murals that would make people stop and stare. When he proposed, it wasn't fancy. We were at the park eating ice cream, and he just pulled out a ring and said, "Marry me, Em. I don't want anyone else." I said yes before he even finished talking. Our wedding was small but perfect. My dress was simple, his tie was crooked, and we danced to our favorite song under twinkling lights. I thought that was it, our happily ever after. We moved into a tiny apartment in the city, the kind with creaky floors and a leaky faucet. But it was ours. We'd cook dinner together, laugh at bad movies, and plan our future. We wanted kids too. We wanted a house with a big backyard where they could play. I'd paint, he'd brew coffee, and we'd grow old together. That was the plan. That was the dream. And for 5 years, it felt real. Jason was my inner strength, my best friend. He'd hold my hand when I was scared, kiss my forehead when I was sad. I thought nothing could break us then. 6 months ago, everything changed. It started with an extreme fatigue, accompanied with persistent cough that wouldn't go away. I thought it was just stress or maybe allergies, but it got worse. I was tired all the time, my chest hurt, and I started losing weight. Jason noticed too. "You okay, Em?" he'd ask, his brow furrowed. I'd nod, smile, and say I was fine. I didn't want to worry him, but deep down I knew something was wrong. I went to the doctor alone, not wanting to scare him. They did. Tests, blood work, scans, a biopsy. I still remember the doctor's face when she called me into her office. Her voice was soft, but her words hit like a truck. Emily, it's stage 3 lung cancer. Cancer. The word felt like a knife in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could do was nod as she explained treatments, chemo, radiation, maybe surgery. I don't even remember. Driving home, when I told Jason, his face went pale. He didn't say much, just hugged me and said, "We'll get through this." I believed him. I needed to believe him. But that was the beginning of the end. The first few weeks were okay. Jason came to my appointments, held my hand during the scans. But then the chemo started, and it was like a monster took over my body. I was sick all the time, throwing up. Too weak to even get out of bed some days. My hair started falling out in clumps. I'd cry in the shower, watching it swirl down the drain. Jason tried to help at first. He'd bring me water, rub my back. But I could see it in his eyes. He was scared. Not just for me, but of me, of what I was becoming. I wasn't the happy, strong Emily he married. I was frail, bald, and broken. He started staying out later, saying he had to work. But I knew better. He'd come home smelling like beer, his eyes avoiding mine. Our conversations got shorter, colder. "How was your day?" I'd ask. "Fine," he'd say, not looking up from his phone. The silence grew like a wall between us. I'd lie in bed at night, listening to him breathe, wondering why he wouldn't touch me anymore. Was I too sick? Too ugly? I'd reach for his hand. But he'd pull away, muttering something about being tired. Each time, it felt like a piece of my heart broke off. I tried to be strong. I told myself he was just struggling, that he'd come around. I'd leave little notes for him like I used to when we were dating. "I love you," I'd write, hoping it would remind him of us. But he'd just smile weakly and say nothing. The notes piled up on the counter, unread. I started to feel like a ghost in my own home there, but invisible. The cancer was killing me, but his distance was killing me more. Then came the day of my 3rd chemo session. I was so weak I could barely walk. Jason said he had a meeting and couldn't come. "She'll be fine, Em," he said, kissing my forehead like it was a chore. I went alone, sitting in the cold hospital chair as the nurses hooked me up to for the chemo burned as it went in, but the real pain was in my heart. I kept looking at the door, hoping he'd show up, hoping he'd care. Kay didn't. That was the day I knew something was wrong, not just with my body, but with us. When I got home, he was gone. Suitcase was missing. His side of the closet. Empty, no note, no call, nothing. Just silence. I called his phone, but it went to voicemail. I texted, "Where are you?" No reply. I sat on the couch, hugging my knees, crying until I couldn't anymore. Was he coming back? Was this just a fight? I didn't know. All I knew was that I was alone, fighting for my life, and the man I loved was gone. Days turned into weeks. I kept going to chemo, kept fighting, but it was hard, so hard, my friend. Tried to help, bring in food, checking in. But it wasn't the same. I needed Jason. I needed the man who promised to love me in sickness and in health. Where was he? Why did he leave? I started to blame myself. Maybe I wasn't strong enough. Maybe I wasn't worth loving anymore. Asterisk, and then today the envelope came. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at it, my heart breaking all over again. The doorbell ringing snapped me out of it, and that's when I met Jackson. A stranger with a package, but his kindness felt like a lifeline. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop thinking about him as I sat back down, the envelope still unopened. What was in it? Was it really the end? And why did I feel like that? Stranger's face was a sign of something bigger. I took a deep breath and picked up the envelope. My fingers trembled as I tore it open, my heart racing. The papers slid out, cold and official, with Jason's signature at the bottom. Divorce. He was done with me. Done with us. But as I read, the words, something else caught my Ajahn note tucked inside in his handwriting. "I'm sorry, Em. I can't do this. My breath caught in my throat. What did he mean? Was there more? Was he coming back? Or was this goodbye forever? The note from Jason was like a knife in my chest. I'm sorry, Em. I can't do this. I sat at the kitchen table, the divorce papers in front of me, his signature glaring up like a slap. Hands shook. My eyes stung, but I couldn't cry anymore. I was too empty. The man I loved, the one who promised to stand by me, had mailed me the end of our marriage while I was fighting to stay alive. Cancer was stealing my strength, but Jason was stealing my hope. I wanted to scream, to tear the papers apart, but all I could do was stare, lost in the pain. Then the doorbell rang again, sharp and loud, pulling me out of my fog. My heart jumped. Could it be him? Had he come to take it back? I stumbled to the door, weak from chemo, my scarf slipping off my bald head. But it wasn't Jason. It was Jackson, the stranger from earlier, holding a small envelope with my name on it. Emily, he said, his voice soft, his eyes kind but worried. This was stuck to the package I gave you. I thought you'd want it. I took the envelope, my fingers brushing his, and mumbled a thank you. His gaze lingered, like he could see the hurt pouring out of me. You okay? He asked. I wanted to lie, to say I was fine, but my face was puffy, my eyes red. I shook my head, unable to speak. He nodded, like he understood, left his footsteps fading. I closed the door, clutching the new envelope. What now? More bad news? I wasn't sure I could handle it. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Inside was a note from Sarah, a nurse at the hospital. Emily, you're a fighter. We believe in you. It was simple, but it felt like a tiny light in the dark. I pressed it to my chest, my breath shaky. But then my eyes fell back to Jason's note. I can't do this. What did he mean? Was he sorry for leaving or sorry for loving me at all? I needed answers, but I was too scared to hope. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a ghost. My body ached from the chemo. My head throbbed, and my heart felt like it was drowning. I hadn't slept much, Jason's words spinning in my mind all night. I dragged myself to the hospital for my next treatment. The divorce papers still on the table, unsigned. I couldn't bring myself to touch them again. The hospital was cold and loud, full of beeping machines and hurried nurses. I sat in the waiting room, my hands folded in my lap, staring at the floor. That's when I saw him again, Jackson, the strange man who delivered for me last night, reading a book. I asked myself, why was he here? Was he sick too? He looked up, caught my eye, and smiled a small, warm smile that made my chest feel a little less heavy. I looked away, embarrassed, but my heart did a funny little jump. The nurse called my name, and I shuffled to the chemo room, the 4-needle waiting like an old enemy. As the medicine dripped into my veins, burning. I closed my eyes and tried to think of something happy, Jason and me at the beach, laughing, the waves crashing. But the memory hurt more than the chemo. He wasn't that man anymore. Maybe he never was. When the session ended, I was so weak I could barely stand. I leaned on the wall, catching my breath, when a voice startled me. Need a hand. It was Jackson, standing there with that same gentle smile. I shook my head, but my legs wobbled, and he stepped closer, offering his arm. Come on, he said. I've got you. I hesitated, then took his arm, grateful. But shy, he walked me to a bench outside the hospital, the autumn air cool on my face. Why are you here? I asked, my voice small. He sat beside me, his hands in his pockets. My mom, he said quietly. She's in treatment too. I come every week to sit with her. His eyes were soft, but there was pain there, like he knew what it was to hurt. I nodded, not knowing what to say. You don't have to talk, he said, but I'm here if you want to. I didn't know why, but his words felt like a warm blanket. I told him about the cancer, just a little, leaving out Jason. He listened. Really listened. Not like people who nod but don't hear you. When I stopped, he didn't push. He just said, you're strong, Emily. Stronger than you think." I didn't believe him, but his voice made me want to. We sat in silence for a while, watching leaves fall from the trees. It was the first time in weeks I didn't feel completely alone. But then my phone buzzed in my pocket and my stomach dropped. I pulled it out, my hands shaking. A text from Jason. "I'm sorry, Em. I need to see you tomorrow." My heart stopped tomorrow. After weeks of silence, after the divorce papers, now he wanted to see me? Was he coming to explain? To beg for me back? Or to hurt me more? I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Jackson noticed, his brow furrowing. "Everything okay?" he asked. I nodded, but it was a lie. Nothing was okay. I shoved the phone back. In my pocket, my chest tight. "Should go," I said, standing too fast, my head spinning. Jackson stood too, steadying me. "Let me walk you home," he said. I wanted to say no, but I was too tired, too shaky, so I let him. We walked in silence, the city noise around us. When we got to my building, he stopped at the door. "Take care, Emily," he said, his eyes warm. I mumbled a thank you and went. Inside my mind, a mess. Jason's text was like a storm in my head. What did he want? Why now? I climbed the stairs to my apartment, my legs heavy, and collapsed on the couch. The divorce papers were still there, staring at me. I picked up Sarah's note instead, reading it again. "You're a fighter." I wanted to believe her, but all I felt was fear. What if Jason wanted to come back? Could I forgive him? Did I even want to? That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Jason's text, about Jackson's kindness, about the cancer eating away at me. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, not knowing if I'd fall or fly. I called my best friend Lily, needing her voice to call me. She answered, sleepy but worried. "Em, what's wrong?" I told her about the papers, about Jason's note, about his text. She was quiet, then said, "He doesn't deserve you." "Em, not after this." Her words stung, but they felt true. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice breaking. "You meet him," she said, "but not for him, for you. To get answers?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. She was right. I needed to know why he left, why he broke me. The next morning, I got ready to meet Jason. My hands shook as I tied my scarf around my head, my reflection in the mirror pale and thin. I didn't look like me anymore, but I had to do this. I texted. "Him back? Where?" He replied right away. "Coffee shop." My stomach twisted. The coffee shop where we had our first date. Was that on purpose? Was he trying to hurt me more? I grabbed my coat, my heart racing, and headed out. But as I stepped into the hallway, I saw Jackson coming out of his apartment carrying a bag of groceries. He smiled, but it faded when he saw my face. "You sure you're okay?" He asked again. I nodded, but my eyes were wet. He stepped closer, his voice low. "You don't have to go through this alone, you know?" His words hit me hard, like he could see right through me. I wanted to tell him about Jason, about the meeting, but I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I told him I was having a meeting with someone, he wished me well, and left. I walked to the coffee shop, my legs like jelly, my mind a tangle of hope and fear. When I got there, Jason was already at a table, his back to me. His brown hair was messier than I remembered, his shoulders slumped. My heart ached, remembering the man I loved. I took a deep breath and walked over, my hands clenched. He looked up and his eyes widened, like he was seeing me for the first time. "Em," he said, his voice cracking. I sat down, my throat tight. "Why?" I whispered. He looked away, his hands fidgeting. "Didn't want to do this," he said, "but I can't." He stopped, his eyes filling with tears. My heart froze. What was he about to say? Was he sorry? Or was this something worse? Before he could finish, the door of the coffee shop swung open, and a woman walked in, her eyes locked on Jason. She looked familiar, too familiar, and my stomach dropped. Who was she? And why was she walking straight toward us? The woman's heels clicked on the coffee shop floor, each step a hammer against my fragile heart. She was tall, her dark hair sleek, her eyes sharp and knowing. Jason's face drained of color as she stopped at our table, her gaze flicking between us. My stomach twisted, a sickening dread clawing at me. I knew her face, Claire, a coworker. Jason used to mention, always with a laugh, saying she was just a friend. But the way she looked at him now, the way his hands shook, told me she was more. Much more. Jason, she said, her voice smooth but edged with impatience. You didn't tell me you'd be here. My throat closed up. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my body felt like it was sinking into the floor. Jason stammered. Claire, I was just... He trailed off, his eyes darting to me, then away, like I was a stranger he didn't want to face. The truth hit me like a wave. He hadn't just left me. He'd left me for her. I stood in my chair scraping loudly, my hands trembling so badly I knocked over my water glass. The crash echoed, but I barely heard it. My chest burned, not from the cancer, but from the betrayal slicing through me. Is this why? I whispered, my voice breaking. Jason's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't answer. Claire's lips tightened and she touched his arm, a small, possessive gesture that made my vision blur. I turned and stumbled out of the coffee shop, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My legs carried me down the street, my scarf slipping, my breath coming in gasps. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to get away from Jason, from Claire. From the life that was crumbling under me, I ended up at the park, the one where Jason proposed, where we'd planned our future under the stars. I collapsed onto a bench, my body shaking, my mind a storm of memories and pain. The trees were bare now, their branches clawing at the gray sky, like they were mourning with me. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold the pieces together. But it felt like I was falling apart. How could he do this? How could the man who kissed my tears away, who promised forever, choose someone else when I was fighting to live? The divorce papers weren't just an end. They were a lie. He hadn't left because he couldn't do this. He left because he wanted her. I buried my face in my hands, sobs tearing through me, each one a jagged edge of grief. A soft voice broke through my haze. Emily. I looked up, startled, my eyes blurry. Jackson stood there, his coat dusted with fallen leaves, his face etched with concern. How did you find me? I asked. I saw you run out, he said, sitting beside me. Not too close, but close. Enough to feel his warmth. I was worried. I wiped my face, ashamed of my tears, my weakness. I'm fine, I lied, my voice hoarse. He didn't push, just sat there, quiet, like a steady anchor in my storm. You don't have to be fine, he said after a moment. With me. His words cracked something open inside me, and before I knew it, I was telling him everything, Jason. The papers, Claire. The words spilled out, raw and messy, like blood from a wound. Jackson listened, his eyes never leaving mine. His silence, a kind of strength I didn't understand. When I finished, my throat ached, my body drained. Jackson didn't say anything at first, just reached out and gently squeezed my hand. His touch was warm, steady, nothing like Jason's cold distance. You didn't deserve that, he said finally, his voice low but firm. None of it. I wanted to believe him, but the pain was too big, too sharp. Pulled my hand away, my heart a tangle of fear and shame. I'm broken, I whispered. Who'd want me now? Jackson's eyes softened, but he didn't look away. Someone who sees you, he said, not what's happening to you. My breath caught, his words a spark in the dark, but I couldn't hold on to them. Not yet. I stood, needing to move, to escape the ache in my chest. Jackson walked me home, his presence quiet but solid. At my door he hesitated, then said, You're not alone, Emily. Not if you don't want to be. I nodded, unable to speak, and slipped inside. The apartment felt colder now, emptier. The divorce papers were still on the table, Jason's note beside them. I picked it up, my hand shaking, and then kept it by one corner. I wasn't ready. To sign the papers, not yet. I needed to understand why I wasn't enough. The next day I went to chemo, my body heavy, my mind numb. Sarah, the nurse, greeted me with her usual smile, but it faltered when she saw my face. Rough day. She asked, hooking up the 4. I nodded. The needles sting, nothing compared to the ache in my soul. As the chemo dripped, I stared at the ceiling, replaying Claire's face, Jason's silence. I felt like I was disappearing piece by piece. But then Jackson walked in, carrying a small bouquet of daisies. For my mom, he said, but he set one flower beside me. Thought you might like it too. My eyes stung, not with sadness this time, but with something softer, something I didn't have a name for. He sat across the room, talking to his mom, but his eyes kept finding mine. Like he was checking if I was still there. When the session ended, I was too weak to walk alone. Jackson noticed, offering his arm without a word. We stepped outside, the autumn wind sharp against my skin. "Why are you so nice to me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He shrugged, his smile sad. "Because you deserve it," he said. "And because I know what it's like to feel alone." His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning I didn't yet understand. We walked in silence, my heart a mess of gratitude and guilt. I didn't deserve his kindness, not when I was so broken, so lost. That night I called Lily my best friend. Needing her strength, she came over, her arms full of blankets and tea, her eyes fierce with loyalty. "He's a coward," she said about Jason, her voice sharp. "And Claire, she's nothing compared to you." I wanted to believe her, but the wound was too fresh. We talked until midnight, her words a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. But as she left, she hugged me tight and said, "You're enough, Em. Don't let him make you forget that." I nodded, but doubt clung to me like a shadow. The next morning, I woke to a knock at the door. My heart leaped, fearing it was Jason, but it was a delivery, a small box, no return address. Inside was a necklace, a tiny silver heart with a note. "You're stronger than you know, Sarah." My eyes filled with tears, her kindness a balm to my bruised soul. But as I held the necklace, my phone buzzed. Another text from Jason. "I made a mistake. Can we talk again?" My hands froze. The necklace slipping to the floor. A mistake. Did he mean Claire? The divorce? Or was this another trick? Another way to hurt me? I stared at the text, my pulse racing, torn between hope and fear. And then the doorbell rang again, loud and insistent. My heart stopped. Was it Jason? Or someone else? I stepped toward the door, my hand trembling on the knob, not knowing what. Waited on the other side, my hand froze on the doorknob, Jason's text burning in my mind. "I made a mistake. Can we talk again?" The doorbell's sharp ring echoed through the apartment, each chime a spike of dread. Was he standing there, ready to beg for forgiveness? Or was it another cruel twist, like Claire's face in the coffee shop? My chest tightened, my breath shallow, as I turned the knob. The door creaked open, revealing not Jason, but Lily, her eyes wide with worry, her arms clutching a bag of groceries. "Em, you didn't answer my texts," she said, stepping inside. I got scared. Relief and disappointment crashed together, leaving me dizzy. I mumbled an apology, my voice barely a whisper, and sank onto the couch. The silver heart necklace from Sarah glinting on the floor where I dropped it. Lily set the groceries down, her gaze catching the necklace. Then my phone still glowing with Jason's message. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice soft but firm, like she could sense the storm inside me. I handed her the phone, my hands trembling, and watched her face harden as she read. "He doesn't get to do this," she said, tossing the phone onto the couch. "Not after everything." Her words stung, echoing my own anger. But beneath it was a flicker of hope I couldn't shake. What if he meant it? What if he wanted me back? I hated myself for even thinking it, but the thought clung to me, like a bruise that wouldn't fade. Lily knelt beside me, her hand on mine. "You're worth more than his games, Em," she said. "Don't let him pull you back in." I nodded, but my heart was a tug of war between pain and longing. The next day, I sat in the chemo room, the Ford dripping its poison into my veins. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear. The beeping machines a cruel reminder of my fight. Sarah checked on me, her smile warm but tinged with concern. "You're quiet today," she said, adjusting the drip. I tried to smile, but it felt like a lie. My mind was stuck on Jason's text, on Claire's possessive touch, on the necklace. Now tucked in my pocket, its tiny heart, a fragile promise of strength. Jackson was there too, across the room, talking softly to his mom. His eyes met mine, and he gave a small nod, like he could feel my struggle from across the room. I looked away, my cheeks warm, ashamed of how his kindness made my heart ache. In a new way. After the session, I was shaky, my body worn thin. Jackson caught up to me in the hallway, his voice gentle. "Rough day?" he asked. I nodded, too tired to hide it. He offered his arm, and I took it, grateful for the steadiness. Outside, the air was crisp, the sky a heavy gray. "Want to grab a coffee?" he asked, pointing to a small cafe across the street. I hesitated, Jason's text like a weight-in. My pocket, but something in Jackson's eyes warm, unwavering made me say yes. We sat by the window, steam rising from our cups. He told me about his mom, how her cancer had come back, how he stayed by her side because she'd always been his rock. "She taught me to show up," he said, his voice low, "even when it's hard." His words cut deep, reminding me of Jason's absence, his betrayal. I wanted to tell Jackson about it, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I asked, "How? Do you keep going when it hurts so much?" He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "You find something worth fighting for," he said. "Even if it's just a moment, a person, a reason to get up." His words landed softly, like rain on parched ground, but they stirred a fear in me. Was I worth fighting for? Didn't know anymore. We walked home in silence, his presence a quiet comfort. At my door, he paused. "You're not invisible, Emily," he said. "Not to me." My breath caught, his words a spark in the dark, but I couldn't hold on to them. I mumbled a thank you and slipped inside, my heart pounding. That night, I stared at Jason's text, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Lily's words echoed, "Don't let him pull you back in," but the hope, that stupid, stubborn hope, wouldn't let go. I typed, "Okay, tomorrow, same place." My hand shook as I hit send, fear and longing twisting inside me. What was I doing? Was I walking into another heartbreak? I clutched Sarah's necklace, its small heart cold against my palm, and tried to sleep. But nightmares of Jason and Claire haunted me, their faces blurring into a cruel smile. The next morning, I dragged myself to the coffee shop, my body weak, my mind a mess. Jason was there, alone this time, his eyes red, his hands fidgeting with a napkin. I sat across from him, my heart racing, the necklace heavy in my pocket. He started, his voice breaking. I messed up. I was scared, and I ran. His words were a knife, twisting in my chest. Scared. I was the one fighting for my life, the one left alone. "Claire was a mistake," he said, his eyes pleading. "I want us back." My breath stopped. Was this real? Could I trust him? I wanted to believe him, to fall into the arms of the man I loved, but the memory of his silence, hesitance, held me back. "Why now?" I asked, my voice trembling. He looked down, his hands clenching. "Because I'm losing you," he said. "And I can't live with that?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from the hospital. My heart sank bad. News always came like this. I excused myself, stepping outside, my hands shaking as I played the message. 'Twas Sarah, her voice tight. "Emily, we need you to come in. The latest scans. They're not good. We need to talk options." World tilted, my vision blurring. Not good. What did that mean? Was the cancer winning? I leaned against the wall, my legs weak, the necklace slipping from my pocket to the ground. Jason stepped out, his face concerned. "Em, what's wrong?" he asked, but his voice felt far away, like a stranger's. I couldn't answer, couldn't. Breathe the hospital. Jason Claret was too much. I pushed past him, needing air, needing space. I wandered the streets, my mind a fog of fear. The scans were bad. Jason wanted me back. Did he? Or was it guilt, pity, not love? I found myself at the park again, the same bench where Jackson found me. I sat, clutching the necklace, its tiny heart a reminder of Sarah's words. "You're a fighter," but I didn't feel like one. I felt like I was drowning. His footsteps crunched behind me, and I turned, expecting Jackson's kind eyes. But it wasn't him. It was Claire, her face pale, her eyes hard. "We need to talk, Emily," she said, her voice sharp. My heart stopped. What did she want? Was she here to take Jason for good? Or was there something else, something worse, waiting to break me? The world was a blur, a swirl of voices and shadows as I crumpled to the ground, the sharp pain in my chest stealing my breath. Jackson's arms caught me, his voice urgent but fading, calling my name. Jason's face loomed above, his eyes wide with panic, shouting something I couldn't hear. The silver heart necklace slipped from my fingers, glinting on the pavement as darkness pulled me under. Is this it? Was the cancer winning now, taking me before I could find answers, before I could choose who I was without Jason's betrayal? My mind clung to Jackson's steady grip, to Lily's fierce hugs, to Sarah's quiet faith in me. I wasn't ready to let go. I woke to the beep of machines, the sterile smell of the hospital wrapping around me like a cold blanket. My eyes fluttered open, the room too bright, my body heavy, but alive. Jackson sat beside me, his face etched with worry, his hand resting near mine on the bed. "You're okay," he said softly, his voice a lifeline. "You passed out. They're running tests." I nodded, my throat dry, my mind foggy. Where was Jason? Had he followed? I looked around, but he wasn't there. My chest ached, not just from the collapse, but from the weight of his absence. Again. Jackson's eyes searched mine, gentle, but steady. "I stayed," he said, almost a whisper. "I wasn't going to leave you." His words landed like a soft rain, soothing the raw edges of my fear. The doctor came in, her face serious but kind. "Emily, your collapse was from exhaustion and stress," she said. "But the scans, the cancers spread further. We need to start a new treatment plan, and soon. It's aggressive, but there's hope." Hope. The word felt like a fragile thread, one I wanted to grab but was afraid would snap. I nodded, my hands twisting the hospital blanket, my mind racing. How much more could I fight? Jackson squeezed my hand, his touch grounding me. "One step at a time," he said. Like he could read my fear? I wanted to believe him, but the thought of facing this alone, without Jason, without certainty, made my stomach twist. Lily burst through the door, her eyes red but fierce. "Em, thank God," she said, rushing to hug me, careful not to jostle. The four in my arm. She'd been calling, texting, frantic when I didn't answer. "I was so scared," she whispered, her voice breaking. I clung to her, my anchor, my friend who never wavered. "I'm still here," I said, my voice shaky, trying to smile for her. She pulled back, her eyes blazing. "And you're not doing this alone. Got it?" I nodded, my throat tight, grateful for her fire when mine was flickering. Jackson stepped out to give us space, but his presence lingered in my mind, a quiet strength I didn't expect to need so much. Lily sat with me, holding my hand as the doctor explained the new treatment, longer chemo sessions, possible surgery, A trial drug with risks, but a chance at more time. Each word felt like a stone piling on my chest, but Lily's grip kept me. Steady, you're tougher than this, she said when the doctor left. You've been through worse. Worse. I thought of Jason's letter, his lies about Claire, his plea to come back. Was that worse than this? I wasn't sure anymore. That afternoon, Sarah stopped by, her nurse's scrubs bright against the dull hospital walls. She checked my chart, then sat beside me, her smile soft. You scared us, she said, touching the necklace I'd put back on. But you're still fighting. I nodded, my eyes stinging. I don't know if I can. I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. She leaned closer, her voice firm. You can. Because you're not just fighting for you. You're fighting for everyone who believes in you. Her words hit deep, stirring something inside me, a spark, a reason to keep going. When I was discharged, Jackson drove me home, the city quiet under a blanket of stars. My apartment felt different now, less like a tomb, more like a place I could reclaim. The divorce papers were still on the table, unsigned, a reminder of Jason's betrayal. I picked them up, my hands steady for the first time in weeks, and signed. My name, each letter a step toward letting go. I didn't need his love anymore, not when it came with lies, not when it broke me. I slipped the papers into an envelope, ready to mail. Ready to close that door. But the next morning, a knock shattered my calm. I opened the door, expecting Lily or Jackson, but it was Jason, his face haggard, his eyes pleading. Please, he said, stepping closer. I know I messed up, but I can't lose you. My heart twisted, the old love tugging at me, but it wasn't enough. Not anymore. You already did, I said, my voice calm but sharp, like a blade I'd forged in pain. I handed him the signed papers, my hands steady. His face crumpled, tears falling, but I didn't waver. Goodbye, Jason, I said, closing the door. My chest tight but lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried too long. Days turned into weeks, each one a battle. The new treatments were brutal, leaving me weak. But Jackson was there, bringing soup, sitting with me through the nausea, reading me stories when I couldn't sleep. Lily came too, her laughter a bright spot in the dark, her strength a mirror. For my own. Sarah sent notes, each one a reminder that I wasn't alone. One day in the hospital garden, Jackson handed me a small canvas. Paint something, he said. Anything. My hands shook, but I painted a single flower pushing through cracked earth, its petals bright against the gray. It was me, broken but growing, fighting for light. Months later, the doctor called with news. The trial drug was working. The cancer hadn't shrunk, but it hadn't grown either. It was a small victory, but it felt huge. I stood in the park where Jason proposed, the divorce final, my heart scarred but beating. Jackson was beside me, his smile quiet, his presence a promise that didn't need words. You did it, he said, pointing to the flower in my painting, now framed in my apartment. I shook my head. We did it, I said, my voice steady, my eyes on the horizon. Love wasn't Jason walking away. It was Lily's hugs, Sarah's notes, Jackson's unwavering presence. It was me, choosing to rise even when I fell. As the sun set, I felt it, a spark of rebirth, fragile but real, and I knew I'd keep fighting, not just for me, but for them, for the love that stayed.